בלילות אני לא ישן כבר שבועות, רק מתהפך מצד לצד ומפחד שיום אחד אני אקום ואת כבר לא תהי. אני אצעק בכל העיר, אשאל אם מישהו ראה לאן הלכה האהבה. אם תרצי אני אתן לך מנגינה שתנגן לך את הכל, אני אתן לך את הכל. אני נשבע לך עם יד על הלב, הפעם זה על באמת, מן הקצה אל הקצה. אני חדש, אני רוצה ממש. אם תרצי אני אתן לך מנגינה שתנגן לך את הכל, אני אתן לך את הכל, וגם אשיר לך. אם תרצי אני אתן לך מנגינה שתרפא בך כל בחור, אני אלחין וגם אכתוב וגם אשיר לך שיר. אשיר לך שיר, אשיר לך לה 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 לה. אשיר לעולם אני לא עוזב אותך אף פעם, גם אם נדמה שאין אותי. לנצח את אהובתי, לנצח את אהובתי, אהובתי.
יש לי דיליי, אני בג'טלג, היה לי אוברווייט, קניתי הנבג, כתבתי מיילים, הוספתי JPEG, אני לא בפוקוס, תוסיף לי השטג סווג. אומייגאד, שפה קשה, העברית החדשה, אני לא מבין את המבטא, דבר אל העברית בבקשה. אני בלחץ, לא, אני בסטרס.
Shabbat Shalom. Shalom to those of you whose faces I can't see as well, who are joining us online. Thank you for being with us. And for all of you in 3 dimensions, I really enjoy having you here in person and being able to feel your presence and energy here. So thank you for being here as we bring in Shabbat together. We're going to begin with words from Psalm 133. I think you know them. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad, how good and beautiful it is for us to be together.
So I think as I walk back to see why my guitar is not coming out. As Rabbi said, the words are relatively familiar, and so are the 2 melodies that we're going to do. But I want to especially point out for this evening that the second melody was really brought to the United States and popularized by, may his memory be a blessing, Harry Belafonte. in 1959 on his album Belafonte from Carnegie Hall. Belafonte always included, especially in his earlier concerts, pieces of Jewish music, whether it was by him or guest artists. There's great Jewish music on those Live from Carnegie Hall albums. I mention it because they had a really powerful impact on me, and not only from Belafonte, but from like the Chad Mitchell Trio and others. You know, they were really pioneers in bringing kind of the Israeli folk idiom to America. So join me. I think you will know the transition when we go into it. It's also an opportunity to get some energy into our singing. So let's go for it. הנה מה טוב מה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב מה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב מה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב מה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יאללה לי, יאללה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה לה לה, יאללה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, יאללה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבר אחים גם יחד. Thank you, Harry.
So a few words about this evening. We have kind of a mixing this evening of multiple strands within our service. Of course, we have it's Shabbat, and that's always the primary strand within our Shabbat service. We are also, this week, we observed Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day, and celebrated Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day. And so we'll be, if you look, the oneg is set up in a festive Israeli fashion, and we will be including pieces of music and some prayers and things like that in the service to reflect where we are in our calendar, and a few reminders that there are things coming up still and things that have happened, but also things coming up. Next Wednesday, I'm doing an Israel class. The Israel Consul General is coming in May to Temple Beth David through our federation. Some of us went and heard Yossi Klein Halevi on Wednesday night on Yom HaAtzmaut. So we have a number of things going on. And then we are also going to talk today about Jewish renewal in Poland, which Temple Beth Israel has been involved with for, I don't know how many years, Chaim? 12 years. So we've been partners in supporting the effort for Jewish renewal in Poland. And so we'll be hearing from Rabbi Chaim Beliak today with an update on where the community there stands right now. And there's been a lot of additional projects from the community, as there's been a lot of refugees and things like that from Ukraine who have come into Poland. So you'll hear some of that today. And we're counting the Omer, and we're celebrating this week a celebration of Bar Mitzvah for Leo Levitin Shulman. And Leo's a little older than some of our B'nai Mitzvah kids, so. And but thrilled to one of our few B'nai Mitzvah kids to celebrate confirmation earlier than celebrating Bar Mitzvah, right? In that way, but happy to celebrate with Leo and his family again, as we celebrated with Mila for her Bat Mitzvah. So lots of things happening today, and we're thrilled to have you with us. I'm going to invite the Levitin Shulman family to come forward and help us to kindle our Shabbat lights. We turn to page 2 and 3, and I invite you to rise if you're comfortably able to do so.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own way, be among those who kindle light.
Leo.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
You may be seated. We're going to turn to pages 20 and 21. Take a moment for Hazarat HaShavua, for a review of the week. Take a deep breath. Go back to last Shabbat. Pause for just a moment on each day, on its blessings and on its challenges. And then we'll come back together and sing Lecha Dodi. Deep breath. We'll sing together verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. When we get to verse 9, I'll ask that everybody who can comfortably do so, we turn and face toward the doors from which we entered and welcome the Shabbat presence and the Nishama Yetera, the extra soulfulness that travels with us during Shabbat, into the congregation and into our hearts. If you're at home, you can turn toward the doorway of your home to welcome Shabbat into your home. Lecha Dodi.
So throughout this evening's service, we will weave in melodies, sort of a medley of Israeli tunes. This is one of those examples here for Lecha Dodi. We're going to use the melody of Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. If you're not familiar with it, off the top of your head, you'll get familiar with it. And of course, we invite you to join in. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabla. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echan, Hitshmi'anu el hamyuchan. Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha. Merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'makshava tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. 21. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki va'orech kumi ori. Uri, uri sher daberi, kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Rise if you're comfortably able and face the doors.
Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'tzohola. Toch emunei am skula, Boi chala, Boi chala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
We turn to page 28 for our call to prayer, Baruch Hu.
Lai la 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 lai. Lai la 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 lai. Lai la 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 lai la 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 lai. Lai la 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 lai. Lai la 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 lai lai la 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 lai. Lai la 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 lai lai lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch
ask Leo to come up, and we're continuing last 3 lines in the Hebrew on page 30.
El chai v'kayam, tamin le'ochaleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv, Aravi.
Amen. Page 34 and 35.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Lai la 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 la, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
You may be seated. Continue on page 36 with Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anohi mitzvavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinamtam levaneha, velibarta bam, veshivteha, teha, uvlechteha, vadere, uvshofbeha, uvkumeha, ukshartam leot, al yadeha, vehayu totafot, beneneha, uftatam, al mezuzot be'ateha, uvishareha, leman tiskiru, vastutem et kol mitzvotai, yitem kedoshim leolehem, ani Adonai Elohehem, asher hoded ethem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lahem le'elohim, ani Adonai Elohehem.
As I mentioned last week, and so I'll just remind us bekitzur in the short version, we're in the in-between days. We left Egypt at Pesach time, and we're making our way to Sinai, which is Shavuot, and we'll count, so you'll know how many days of the 49 we've gone through when we count a little later. But we're in that in-between time in the desert where we're free from Pharaoh as a people, but we don't yet have a mission. We don't yet have our purpose. What is the purpose of our freedom? So as we sing Mi Chamocha today, we have some of that feeling with us. We sing this song of freedom, and we know that there's many possibilities before us, but we're not quite sure yet where we're going. Mi Chamocha, page 40.
Mi chamocha, Elim Adonai, mi chamocha, Nedar v'kodesh, norati lo, osei v'len. Snap with us. Mi chamocha, Elim Adonai, mi chamocha, Nedar v'kodesh, norati lo, osei Malchutcha ra'uvanecha Molkei am lifnei Moshe u'Miriam Ze Eli anu Ve'amneru Adonai imlo le'olam va'ed Mi chamocha Elim Adonai, mi chamocha, Nedar b'kodesh, norati lo, osei v'len. Norati lo, osei v'len. Norati lo, osei v'len. V'ne'emar ki v'ad Adonai et Yaakov ugalo meyad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
Amen. Page 42, we ask the Holy One to watch over us and to protect us, to raise us up tomorrow to life refreshed, renewed, life of purpose and meaning. Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Amidenu shomreinu l'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Amidenu shomreinu l'chaim Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Ushmor tzedenu uvoenu Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Ushmor tzedenu uvoenu Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Amidenu shomreinu l'chaim Baruch atah Adonai Aporei sukat shalom Aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael Ve'al continue with, we continue with Vishamru, page 42 at the bottom, thanking the Holy One for the gift of Shabbat. Vishamru b'nei Israel et HaShabbat laso et HaShabbat lidorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Israel et HaShabbat laso et HaShabbat lidorotam berit olam. Ve'ni uvein b'nei Israel Oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam. Veshamru b'nei Israel et HaShabbat lasot et HaShabbat lidorotam berit olam. Ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai Asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz ve'shamru b'nei Israel et hashabat lasot et hashabat lidorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat v'inafash Shabbat v'inafash, Shabbat v'inafash. Veshamru b'nei Israel et HaShabbat lasot et HaShabbat lidorotam berit olam. So I'd like to invite in just a moment Randy to introduce a piece that he will be playing at the end of our silent meditation. Randy?
Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Nice to see so many faces out there. The theme of Tikkun Olam, or repair of the world, pervades the lyrics of the song I'm going to be playing momentarily. The name of the song is Ani v'ata. So those of you that know a little bit of Hebrew know that means you and I. And the composer is Israeli singer, actor, comedian, and screenwriter, so multifaceted. His name is Arik Einstein. And I have to confess, I never even heard of him, but he apparently is a pioneer of Israeli rock music and was named the Voice of Israel and has had a very illustrious career that spanned over 50 years. He is regarded by many as one of the greatest and most popular and most influential Israeli musical artists of all time. So pretty amazing credentials for Arik Einstein. He recorded over 500 songs and collaborated with many well-known Israeli singers and songwriters. And this song dates from 1970. Translation is as follows. It's very simple and short. You and I will change the world, then everyone will join us. It's been said before, but it doesn't matter. You and I will change the world. You and I will try to start from the beginning. It will be tough, but so what? It doesn't matter. You and I will change the world.
We turn to page 46. If you're comfortably able to do so, I invite you to rise.
Adonai sefaitai tiftaf ufi yagi tehilateha Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Venotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rahel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Vehanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hazadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezoher Haste Avot Veimahot, Umevi Gulav Livnei Mehem, Lema'an Shemo Ve'ahava, Melech Hoser U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Lelam Adonai, Mehaye HaKol atah, Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatah, Mehalkel Hayim Behesed, Mehaye HaKol Berahamim Rabim, Somen Noflim Verofei Holim, Umatir Asurim, Keaye Unenato, Lishene Afar, Mi Hamoha Baal Gevurot, Umidomela, Melech Memid, Haye, Matmia Yeshua, Nehemiah Natal Hayod Hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mehaye Hakol.
Page 52. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Continue silently with the text of your own heart or the words of the Siddur of the prayer book through page 62, 63. When you're through, you may be seated. Thank you. I grew up singing that song at camp, so I had all the feels in there, I was going through. So Rabbi Chaim Beliak is no stranger to Temple Beth Israel. In fact, he's an honorary member of Temple Beth Israel. His history goes all the way back to us when he was the rabbi at the Claremont Colleges decades ago. And what? Many decades ago, he wants to let you know. So when Chaim has been a major force with Jewish renewal in Poland, and so when he was looking for congregations to get connected and to join in that work, it was natural that TBI, where he had many friends and many people who knew him from his years in the community, was a place that he reached out to. And it's been a gift to us as well to be able to learn more about the revival of Jewish life in Poland. I know when I went a few years ago, I guess it's a few years ago already because it was before the pandemic, so it's got to be a few years ago. It's like BP. One of the really, I was with a whole group of rabbis. It was a rabbi's trip, and we went to Beit Warszawa, and they were showing us their Polish prayer book, and you open the prayer book, and there's one of the thanks in there is to Temple Beth Israel for being a part of helping to fund the publication of that prayer book. So for an update on what's happening with Jewish Renewal in Poland, I'd like to invite our friend, our member, and somebody who's done just incredible work, and the amount of time he's committed to this from his own life is really incredible, Chaim Beliak.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Rabbi Kubitz. It's good to stand in this pulpit and to see many faces. I will tell you that none of us have aged a day, and it's good to see that all of you are getting along well, and I'm very happy to be here. I want to acknowledge the ongoing support not only of Rabbi Kupitz, Cantor Bush, and our board member who has been so much a part of our work and has been a sounding board so often. Jerry Fenning, who has been not only, and Vicky, who traveled with me to Poland and became very active in the work of sustaining the work of Friends of Jewish Renewal in Poland. So let me tell you a little bit about who we are, what we do, and what our effort is. And I want to just make it very clear that for many of you, this is an odd idea, life in Poland. And it is clear that for a number of reasons, the idea that there would be Jewish life anywhere in Europe is an idea that rings with some question marks. But in fact, especially after 1989 and the fall of the Soviet Empire, before the rise of the Russian Empire, there was a profound opening in the 13 countries that allowed for a Jewish flourishing. And I became involved in this movement about the year 2010, when I was on my way to work in a place called Suriname. That's another story. Lenny Thal, Rabbi Lenny Thal, said, could you take a little detour and go and help us out in Warsaw? And what I found was profoundly inspiring. And since then, I've been involved in the ups and downs of the story of Beit Warszawa. Currently, we are emerging from the pandemic, like every other institution in American life, in European life. And we have had the profound impact not only of the COVID pandemic, but we've also had the impact of the war with the arrival of millions of Ukrainian refugees. We've come through both of those. We're continuing to respond to both of those. And I will tonight try to outline some of what we've tried to do in response to those two events. But I think the central thing that needs to be said is that the response of building Jewish life in Eastern Europe is the response of all Jewish life since World War II, and that is the recovery of human dignity, Jewish dignity. The assertion that when we are able to rescue Jews, and our project is about finding Jews. Many people who hid their Jewish identity were uncertain about whether they could be a part of the Jewish people. And now it's some 80 years since the events of World War II, and we have thought many times that there is no longer a need to conduct step-by-step classes and introduction to Judaism classes because no one is coming. But this year, to our surprise, we have 50-some people registered in our Introduction to Judaism classes. We are overwhelmed by that number and the need to respond. Next slide, please. So who was teaching those classes? Well, we are being blessed not only by the fact that I can teach occasionally by Zoom and by presence, next slide, but many of you will recognize this gentleman right here, who for many of years was a part of the Shabbat band, Menachem Mirsky. Menachem is finishing his rabbinic studies this May. I'm going to be proud to present him for his ordination. And he has been involved in the step-by-step classes and has been involved in counseling people. Certainly the fact that he speaks Polish, the fact that he has advanced degrees in philosophy, having finished his PhD, and now will be called Rabbi Menachem Mirsky, will be an important part of the fact that we have 4 people during my time who have stepped forward, gone to rabbinical school, and are part of the group of people that we have encouraged and fostered to become rabbis. And that's been an important part of our work. Unfortunately, until now, we've not been able to afford to bring them back to Poland. That'll be part of my message later on. Menachem will probably end up being somewhere here in California, probably not too far away. Let me invite you to meet the next rabbi who will be serving in a pulpit right down the road from us in Fullerton, Adi Kirschenbaum, who has finished the Reform Seminary in Leobeck in London. Muddy has been a rabbi for 3 years and has served in congregations in London and will be serving in the congregation, I think, called Beth Tikva in Fullerton, and will be one of our Reform colleagues. He is actually right now in Warsaw in the interim until he takes responsibility, working with our new leadership. One of the things that happens in all congregations and is now going on in our congregation is that the reliable leadership that led for the last 6 years stopped leading in January. There were elections, and a new group of people came in, and Matti is working with that leadership to help them organize the new directions for things. And of course, the new leadership came in like all new leadership comes in, knowing everything, planning everything, and not being really capable of leading. Matti is there helping us with his presence. He led the Passover Seder, and it was the largest Seder we've had in Warsaw of 80 people. And of course, we had 35 people in our Gdansk synagogue, and we ended up having an extra Seder in Lviv. Now, Lviv is not Poland. Lviv is Ukraine, but two of our Gdansk members who are musicians volunteered and found the group that we had partnered with during the war, and we'd had a concert with them. There's a wonderful group of musicians, and we'll have another concert with them this summer. And so they put together a Seder with the Lviv folks. They brought the matzah and the accoutrements, and there was a wonderful Seder. The videos of the Seder will be up on our website soon. So this is work that is like the work on in any other congregation that you will see around the world, trying to observe the holidays, except there is no middle generation. There is no one who stands in the place of the older generation to say, we always did it this way. That generation does not exist. And we are still in the stages of people coming out of the woodworks and telling us the story of how they discovered their Jewishness. I invite you to look at our website, because every year we put on a series of conversations with people about how they discovered their Jewishness. And we are still very much in the process of that. My first day at Beit Shabbat 12 years ago was occasioned by the secretary translating the following conversation. A gentleman came in. He was about 3 years older than I am. I will tell you that I'm 74, which means he was born about 1945, 1944, late in World War II. And he says to me in Polish, I just found out I'm Jewish. I said, great, wonderful, welcome. He says, I went to the Orthodox rabbi, and the Orthodox rabbi asked me to bring papers to prove that I'm Jewish. I said, did you bring papers? He says, I was born, and the village people kept me. There could be no papers. I said, of course, I understand there could be no papers. He says, they just told me, the oldest person in the village just told me that because I'm really Jewish, I thought I was Catholic. Now, all of a sudden, I'm Jewish. There are no papers. What do I do? I said, first of all, you're welcome to come here every Shabbos. And first of all, bring your children. P.S. He, of course, did not inherit from the Polish side of the family, but he did inherit a whole community in which 3 of his 5 children formally converted, as he did, because we insist on everybody converting. He's an active member of our community, and there's a whole generation of his family that are now part of our community. And it points to 2 things. One, the entire village colluded to keep his identity, which would have been known to everyone, quiet. And he survived the war. 2, that family kept him alive. And 3, even though there was an awareness that he was of Jewish stock, they raised him and cared for him, and he was able to find his way back to Judaism because there was a progressive community that was available to him to understand the peculiarities of how he would acquire his Jewish identity and to welcome him into Jewish life. So we have a very special role to play in the personal acquisition of people's identity. We do the usual things that people do in synagogues, the classes, and so forth. You've heard about the first translation into Polish of the prayer book since 1927. We've been involved in making 2 documentary films. One of those films played just last week, and you saw a picture of the main person that was in that documentary film, who sang on this bima, David Vishnia. The movie was How Saba Kept Singing. It's available on YouTube. Please go and watch it. It tells the story how this young man who was a singer in the largest reform, I'm going to use the word reform, it was actually progressive synagogue in Warsaw, the largest synagogue in the world, sang in that choir. Through a various complex story, ended up in Auschwitz. The SS loved his voice. It's a complex story about what happened in Auschwitz. He survived. He ended up being in an army unit at the end of the war, an American army unit. His son was a classmate of mine at HUC. I'm leaving out a lot. And you should spend an hour and 10 minutes and see How Saba Kept Singing. It's an inspirational story that we helped bring to PBS, and you'll find it very important. Our other movie that we helped produce, Bogdan's Journey, moves in another direction of historical reconciliation. We hope that you will spend some time with that as well. Finally, during this crisis, and there's many projects that we've been involved with, translation of the most important Introduction to Judaism book that's available to not only Jewish audiences, used in our conversion class, but also used in high schools now. And we're about to bring to the fore the first history book that tells the modern story of Jewish history, a project that we were seeking sponsorship for, that will tell the story of the Jewish people's history in Polish, that will be used in our conversion class, but will also be used in high schools in Poland. Finally, when the war broke out, and there were all of a sudden millions of Ukrainian women and children, we did what all Poles did. It's probably not recognized to the fullest extent, but Poland and Ukraine were not particularly friendly neighbors, at least historically. And it was a tremendous surprise when Ukrainians were met at train stations and at the border with bowls of soup and being ferried to places to live, and there was chaos. But after the chaos, and this is where we participated in the soup kitchens and so forth, and you heard about the World Kitchen, we participated in a consortium that we're still involved with, in which we're responsible for over 600 Ukrainian children in a child care setting under the name of the Janusz Korczak Child Care Fund. This is part of a group called Spinka. Spinka in Ukrainian and Polish has a double entendre. It means I have people here who will correct me if I'm wrong, so I'll try to explain it. Spinka means a clip that clips things together. And it has the meaning of to bring things together. So this group that provides childcare for mothers to be able to go out and work in Poland, and it allows the children to have, in the Ukrainian language, the opportunity to also learn Polish and to be in a safe, warm setting, is something that we have been a part of. Can I ask you to do a couple of slides forward? Yeah. So here is our president. We have surprising, interesting integration of various kinds of identities. Hanya is our new president at Simchas Torah, and she has taken over the leadership. And next slide. Yes, she's taken over the leadership of our community. This is a Hanukkah celebration. I was actually present at this celebration in December. This is next slide. This is another shot of the Hanukkah celebration. And one of the things you're seeing here is that we teamed up with the Cultural Club for these celebrations, because this next week we are moving into our new building that we've been able to arrange for. And we're very excited. It's in the center of Warsaw. It's being rented to us at an incredible rate. And we're very excited that we'll be able to refurbish it and make it available to people. And it will serve as a center for the progressive Jewish movement in Eastern Europe. Everything that was in Ukraine, in Russia, has been destroyed. So this will be a very important outpost. Next slide, please. Here we have our Purim celebration, most recent. The man on your left, next to the guy in the red wig, is the historian Pavel Spivak, who passed away just a few days after this picture. He is the man that was responsible for taking the Ringelblum archive and making it available in English, Hebrew, and in Spanish. And he was the spouse of our chair, and we will miss him, but we have others that will be involved with our work. Next slide, please. Just a family celebrating at Purim. This is actually misdated. It's actually 2023. We'll fix that, Jerry. Next slide. This is the Purim, the Passover celebration. And you can see some of the people who are there. It's mostly young people that are involved in our community. Mostly people who have discovered their Jewish identities in a very interesting fashion. Each one is a wonderful story. Next slide. This gentleman right here is the back. Unfortunately, we can only see the back of his head. His name is Jonathan Mills. He is the genius that, with 3 other people, helped in a very, very central way to put together these 90-some child care centers that have some 600 children. And we have just applied. Again, this is 2023. We're very proud that he was one of the founders of Beit Warszawa in the 1990s, and he came back to help when the war broke out. Next slide. That is a class of our Introduction to Judaism class, and the woman that's in the foreground is actually Rabbi Gosha Korodovich, another one of our rabbis, and she is a sometimes teacher of the class, and she may be one of the people we hope will be involved in continuing to teach for the movement. Okay, I'm getting the high sign. Next slide. Finally, I want you to see one of the projects that we worked on with the children. We had a campaign for the winter boots. You know, the kids left in February 2022, and by this winter that we've just come through, they needed new boots. And so we had a campaign to make it possible for them to have the new boots, and there they are, measuring them, and we'll have a wonderful slideshow of that. Some of it's up already, and they're trying them on and enjoying the winter boots. Finally, next slide. Just to lay out our concerns and hope that we will be able to invite you to support us in being sure that we can hire a full-time rabbi. We have plans for that, and continue to support our work with Ukrainian refugees. And as we enter this new facility to make it refurbished in a way that will be beautiful. It's just a empty shell at this moment, so we're going to need to do a few things to put it up. If you would like, there's a brochure that's outside, and you can get a little more in the way of details. I want to thank you for your patience. I want to thank you for your interest, and I want to thank you for the pride that we have in telling the story of the Jewish people that care for each other wherever we are as a people. And I appreciate being with you this Shabbat. Thank you.
Page 253. We turn our thoughts to all of those in our lives and in our community who are in need of healing, of body, of mind, or of spirit. Join in our Misha Berach prayer.
Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak veYaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah uYevarech El HaCholim
Ask for blessings upon Rebecca Gilman, Hannah Fields Austin, Sue Toback, Rosin Lefkowitz, Helen Weinfeld, Pam Poliakov, Kathy Blumenfeld, Caitlin Antrim, Jennifer Rudin, Brad Holland, Serena Postal, Bobby Kay, Robert Strober, Marilyn Lubarsky, Ellery Einstein, Joan Morse, Nomi Kravitz, Craig Sachs, Myra White, Lori Snyder, Charity Razade, Mike Klein, Barbara Fass, Joel Beasy, Burton Gershman, Lawson Spicer, Gloria Foster, Rita Warshaw, Eric Quatcher, should not be on the list, remember him? Robert Gerard, Adele Harris, Brenda Found Gerard, Ron Freelander, Harvey Sherman, Jan Marcus, Fred Fable, Marla Fregosa, Martin Cole, Al Shapiro, Jeff Nelson, Oran Net Resnick,
Gina Eli, Robert Waldman, Barry Gustafaro, Judith Gratz-DeLange, Eva Laxon, Mar Gassner, Alda Mendoza, Mitch Samuelson, Sharna Blitz, Eli Wakefield, Rob Scheer, Danny Kammel, Audrey Kubel, Deborah DeLange, James Stead, Rita Elias, and
Chris Gacci, David Bush.
A Prayer for Israel at 75 by Rabbi Naomi Levy. God, our light, Israel at 75 is a miracle before our eyes. Zion weeps tears of gratitude and joy. Her children are flourishing, her cities teeming with promise and innovation. We marvel at this tiny nation, ancient and new. Jerusalem's holy golden stones, safe beneath the Iron Dome. There is so much to be thankful for. Yet our hearts can't help but ache for all the sacrifice, all the precious lives lost to terror and war, grieving parents whose children are no more. Send comfort, O God, and blessings and strength. Spread your shelter over Israel, over all who live there. Protect the men and women who defend the land. Hear their prayers. Bring peace, God. Let it rain down from the heavens like a mighty storm. Let it wash away all hatred and bloodshed. We pray for the day when the sound of sirens will give way to songs of celebration. Let the skeptics roll their eyes. A 2,000-year-old hope will never die. Guardian of Israel, in these fragile days of protest and unrest, fill Israel's leaders with humility and wisdom to protect democracy and justice. So long as there is breath within us, our people must speak out with all their might to defend what is right. Prophecies of old can still come true. A psalm on David's lyre still soothes. The fire the Maccabees lit still burns. Our Jewish heart still yearns. We remember the hope, the lamb and the lion, all of us, dreaming of Zion. Bless Israel with peace, God. Please, God. Amen.
So I chose a song to honor Israel, but I think it fits beautifully with what Rabbi Biliak has taught us today about Jewish renewal in Poland. It's called Al Kol Ele, and I invite you to turn to page 347 in your Sidurim. Al Kol Ele means all these things, and I just want to call your attention to the bottom paragraph, which is a translation into English of the chorus. Keep all these safe, my good God, the honey and the sting, the bitter and the sweet. Do not uproot what has been planted. Do not forget the hope. And I think that that fits so beautifully with both our celebration of Israel's 75th and the way that that same energy has taken hold in Poland and allowing the renewal of Jewish life there as it has flourished in the state of Israel. If you don't know, feel comfortable with the verse, try and join in on the chorus at least. Al hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, al hamar ve'hamarok, habiteinu ha'tinoket, shmot Eli ha'tov, al ha'esh ha'vo'eret, al ha'mayim ha'zakim, al ha'ish ha'shav ha'baisha, min ha'mechakim, al kol eile, shmor na li Eli hatov, al hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, al hamar ve'hamatov, al nata'akor natua, al tishkach et hatikva, hashiveni ve'ashuva el ha'aretz ha'tova. Shmor Eli al zeh habayit, al hagan ve'al chochma, mi'agon mipachad peta umimilchama. Shmor ha'am atcha yesh li, al ha'or ve'al hataf, al ha'pri shelo hefshil od v'shenei esav, al kol eile, shmor na li Eli hatov, al hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, al hamar ve'hamatov, al nata'akor natua, al tishkach et hatikva, hashiveni ve'ashuva el ha'aretz ha'tova. Mirash reish ilan baruach, merachok nosher kochav, mishalom libi b'choshech nirshemot achshav. Ana shmor li al kol eile, ve'la'alhu ve'nafshi, al hasheket, al bechi ve'al zeh hashir, al kol eile, shmor Eli hatov, al hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, al hamar ve'hamatov, al nata'akor natua, al tishkach et hatikva, hashiveni ve'ashuva el ha'aretz ha'tova. Page 261. Oh, sorry, Rosh Chodesh.
78.
278. I was thinking.
I was like, what's on 261?
No, I thought it was last week. Tried to be efficient, and it didn't work.
I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer, and we'll start with the blessing there in the middle of the page.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al svirat haomer.
We give praise to you, Adonai, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer.
Hayom שלושה ועשרים יום, שהם שלושה שבועות ושני ימים לעומר.
Today is the 23rd day, which is 3 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. Now I'd like to invite Jack Warshaw to come up and share a few announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Temple Beth Israel, I want to thank you for being here, both in the sanctuary and online. Toda Rabbah to Rabbi Jonathan Kupetz, Kenter, Paul Bush, wonderful music from Dr. Randy Polavoy, and much appreciation to Claudia Gonzalez, who handles our technology so well. In addition, Mazel Tov, congratulations to Leo Levitin-Shillman, who will be on the Bima tomorrow for his bar mitzvah, and to Rabbi Baliak for the wonderful words on the project in Poland. Thank you to our fellow congregants who have generously donated delicious items for tonight's oneg. Robert and Devorah Strober, Sharon Group of Hadassah, the TBI 75th Anniversary Committee, and the families of this year's B'nai Mitzvah students. Thank you to our tonight's greeters, our outside greeters, Kylie Sykes and Debbie Harris, lobby greeters, Vicki Hollander, Phyllis Blackie, and Judy Rose, our security guard who greeted you in the driveway. After the service, we will gather in the social hall for Kiddush, motzi refreshments, and conversation. Please take this opportunity to get to know someone new, which will help us continue to build our warm, personal Jewish community. We have a very busy and engaged community. Find what interests you in our weekly update, emailed every Thursday, the monthly Kehillah, and on our website, tbipomona.org, and Facebook page. In particular, I'll highlight a couple of upcoming events from this week's update. So every Saturday morning, we have Torah study via Zoom, led by Mikey Ryan, 9:30 and 11. The meeting website is in the weekly update. Please contact her directly if you want to join the group or just want the commentary and questions that are sent out every Thursday. We will be having, coming up, our Giving Tree event that will begin Wednesday, May 3rd. You'll be getting some more information, and the information will be on the TBI website. And that event will conclude with a wonderful evening on Saturday, June 3rd, the Giving Tree soiree, and you'll get some more details about that in your email. And lastly, mention that we will have Mahjong on Wednesday, May 10th, 1 to 4 p.m. in the social hall. Again, Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Jack, and thank you to all of our helpers, most of whom are helpers on a pretty constant basis, people helping with our oneg and greeters and stuff who help in all the various ways. Thank you to all of them, and to our Hadassah group also, not only for food, but lots of decorations this evening, which are really lovely as well. So thank you for making tonight and our oneg and stuff special. There's going to be Israeli dancing tonight, so as soon as we finish with our blessings, where's Yael? There's Yael. Yael is going to lead us, so I hope you'll join me and Yael in doing some Israeli dancing as soon as we finish our blessings. So thank you to Yael as well for being a part of that. We're going to turn to page 282, middle of the page, for Aleinu L'Shabeach. If you're able, please rise.
תת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Page 294, as our thoughts turn to memory, before we enter into Kaddish and I read names, we are dedicating a memorial plaque this evening to Dr. Arnold Roth, and I'd like to invite his daughter, Brianna, to share a few words.
Arnie Roth, my dad, was a force of nature, a light, a leader, and a healer. He was a caring and brilliant physician, devoted to his patients for over 40 years. I'm learning to find him in sunsets, in Beethoven, in the sounds of a baseball game. And though he is greatly missed, his memory lives on in the hearts of his friends and family and all who were lucky enough to have known him. Shabbat Shalom.
So we remember him tonight. We also remember the recent deaths of Gloria Wagman, mother of Larry Wagman, of Ira Quatcher, husband of Jane. We remember the Yortzites, the anniversaries of the deaths of Lillian Avedon, Lottie Goldman, Murray Marcus, Gordon, William Bill Neal, Miriam Waller Sudar, Herb Andrew, Anna Cohen, Uri Cohen, Arnold Roth, Bruce Schneider, Jules Diamond, Michael Diamond, Steve Horwitz, Nina Lemasters, Mark Meckler, Joseph Morecki, Ruth Delahand Maiku, Florence Sheps, Peter Schneiders Baker, Esther Dabrowski, Irving Elhai, Dr. Jack D. Kirschbaum, Marvin Salzberg, Samuel Hecht, Alec Nell, Nissim Moshe Mocho, Emery Weiner, Margalit Ben Zaken, Ida Brill, Sarah Elhai, Herbert Levin, Margaret Russell, Lillian Suchadaler, Julius Title, Ethel Banilover, Ava Bespris, Charlene Riva Chester, Alberta Crespo, Vetta Ginsburg, and Betty Mae Tons. If you're remembering somebody on this Shabbat, would like to add a name to those I've mentioned, or restate a name I've mentioned, please feel free to do so as they come by your row. If you're in a time of mourning or observing a yortzeit on the Shabbat, I invite you to rise. And I invite the rest of the congregation, if it's your custom, to rise in support and embrace of those who mourn. Kaddish is on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'alma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh v'chayachon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael v'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Olamei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Dukudisha Richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata Da'amiram bi'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shmaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Zichronam livracha. May their memories always be for a blessing. We're going to close with Hatikva, page 374. 374. And you can place up this way toward the flag. You're already facing that way, but just letting you know.
Zion, Sophia, Od Lovda, Tikvateinu, Hatikva bat Shnot Alpayim, Liot Am Chofshi, Be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion, Yerushalayim, Liot Am Chofshi, Be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion, Yerushalayim.
For those of you who have joined us online, thank you for being with us. For all of you here, please join us in the social hall for Kiddush, Motzi, refreshments. Shabbat Shalom.
And dancing. Shabbat Shalom.